If you are wondering what has cilok to do with voice of Bachaprot, let me tell you the story how three girls from a small farmer village in Indonesia have taken this world by storm.
VoB! VoB!
Hi, I'm Bule in London, and before we continue, I would like to let you know that this video has subtitles in 3 languages, which are Indonesian, Latvian and English, and if you would like to select any of these languages, please click on the settings menu down below and enjoy this video. Some of you are probably thinking, how come these 3 hijab-wearing girls are playing metal music? Is music even allowed in Islam? To learn more about that, I recommend you to check this very informative video on Let's Talk Religion channel.
Everything from rock concerts to military parades or religious ceremonies, music is everywhere in the world in different cultures. And the Muslim world is no exception.
But to understand how the trio is playing this heavy and loud music, we need to take a look at Indonesia as a country. Even with 280 million people and being the 4th most populated country, Indonesia is often overlooked. Most people have probably heard about Bali, which is like a really popular tourist spot, but a lot of them will not know about the other 17,000 islands that form Indonesia. The country has world's largest Muslim population. Although Islam is the dominant religion in the country, Indonesia is not an Islamic country but a democratic republic. In most parts of the country, people are not too judgmental and quite relaxed towards the lifestyle of others. For example, it's a well-known fact that the former president of Indonesia, Jokowi, is a metalhead. Music is quite an integral part of Indonesians, and that's why it's not a surprise that music events, including metal shows, are happening all over the country. But of course there are some exceptions. For example, the semi-autonomous province of Aceh is operated under strict Sharia law, and you probably won't see Lady Gaga touring there. Also, outside of the bigger cities, people who live in villages and towns, they tend to be a little bit more conservative with their beliefs. And one of those places is a small farmer town called Singgajaya in Garut, West Java, where Voice of Bachaprot's story starts. Yeah, so we are here. And yeah, where is Indonesia? This here is Indonesia. Okay, yep. And we are looking at the Java island. Yep. Yeah, we are looking at Java island and Singgajaya, Garut. Where is it? Garut, Singgajaya, somewhere here. Let's take a look. Where is it? It should be somewhere here. Yeah, there we go. We are here. Yeah, this is the bridge. Okay, let's go. Let's go to Singgajaya. It's a nice view. As you see, the river. I guess rice fields, banana plants, yeah, some truck. Okay, let's keep going. Small houses, as you see, there's like no tall buildings. This is the main road. Yeah, this is Indonesia. Brings back memories. Oh, what is that? Bakso. Bakso. You probably think there's nothing much going on here because it's just like a farmer village. There are like not too many things you can do here. It's a small village for Indonesian standards. What else we have here? Okay. Someone is repairing motorcycles. Okay. And then you have these 3 girls. They totally look like Widi, Sitti and Marsya. Yeah, they look totally like VoB girls. And here, literally in the middle of the rice field, we have Al-Baqiyatu Solihat, the Islamic middle school where VoB was born. And yeah, the reviews of this place, they speak for themselves. Birthplace of VoB. VoB, who are world famous, graduated from MTS. I am proud of them. Hopefully they will always be istiqomah. I mean, the school is VoB. Marsya lives in Singajaya. Her school is Banjawangi. So it's normal that she's often late. A lot of comments about VoB. And yeah, Voice of Bachaprot would probably not exist without this man. This is Abba Erza Satia, who introduced the girls to the music instruments and came up with the band's name. So Abba Erza was a music teacher and counselor at the school that I just mentioned. Back then, the 14-year-old girls ended up in the counselor's office on a regular basis. What was their crime? Marsya, Sitti and Widi, they were playing percussions on their desks. Then they were singing loudly, they were writing criticisms on the school bulletin board, and they were also falling asleep during the class. At first, Abba Erza came up with the idea for the girls to use this rebellious energy in a drama club. But the girls didn't really fit in, and then the teacher decided to put the trio in a music band to support the club. Marsya was introduced to the guitar, Widi to the bass, and Sitti to an improvised drum set which was made from the school's marching band instruments. And this is how Voice of Bachaprot was born. It's quite interesting because at the start the band had up to 15 members, which can be seen in this video. We have Sitti. Yeah, that's her drum set. And I think that's Abba Erza. And this, I don't know, another teacher? Oh, that's Widi. So young. And there's Marsya eating some rice. So shy. Sitti looks like the most serious from all the girls. Everyone is eating and Sitti is playing the drums. And now we have Widi and Marsya singing a little bit. And then there was that other video which I think was recorded a year later, so you can see a lot of progress. Let's check it out. You can see them doing the crime. They are sleeping in the class, but I think the class is already over, but I think that's the reference. Abringan, not sure what it means. Okay, that's Widi, and that's Marsya, because that is Erza's guitar, I think. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people in this band. Not 15, I think maybe some already gave up, I'm not sure. I think that is another vocalist. They look so cute. Okay, that's Marsya. That's definitely Marsya. Yeah, that's the school. Okay, now we have also Sitti on the drums and Marsya doing like some guitar solo. And there is Widi. Yep. That's a lot of progress made in 1 year. How you call that music instrument? Okay, we got Sitti again. And yeah, back then they were doing like mostly covers of top 40 hits from musicians like Maher Zain, Maroon 5 and Jessie J for like different school events. But of course all this changed after the girls borrowed Erza's laptop and found out his music playlist. It turned out that their teacher was a big fan of rock and metal music. They fell in love with songs from bands like Metallica, Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Slipknot and System of a Down. System of a Down's Toxicity was the first song that they learned, and soon after that other covers followed which were uploaded on Facebook and they became viral. A little fun fact, VoB didn't always stand for Voice of Bacheprod because back then they were called Voice of Baquitos. Sounds a little bit Spanish. But actually that's just like a shorter version of the name of their school. Here you can see the girls under their former band name playing Red Hot Chili Peppers, by the way. Okay, Sitti on the drums. Marsya, new guitar. Okay, that's a lot of progress. I think he's also having fun. Widi. They have some proper crowd there. Maybe the biggest crowd they had. Okay, they have some fans. I wonder if this is in Singajaya or somewhere else. Yeah, she's good. She's good already back then. Anyways, the girls were becoming so good that they were receiving offers for paid gigs. At first, their parents were not really happy about the idea that their daughters are playing in front of large crowd. There was even a time when Marsya was banned to play music. Once after performing in a festival, she was punished by getting locked out of her house. Also for Widi it was quite similar because her family thought that her hobby is not serious, and even her sister said that she is ruining her future. But after becoming more successful and getting featured on the local TV, their family started to become more supportive. Their teacher, Abba Erza, became their manager, and with his help they started to write their own songs. VoB had a difficult time finding a record label, because in the music industry they were told to remove the hijabs to make them more marketable. In an interview, Marsya has admitted that at one point they hated the music industry so much because it was so cruel. She said that all the women who want to get involved in this industry are pressured to meet the masculinity standards. That's why the band decided to release their music under independent label. In 2018, they released their first single, School Revolution, which became a massive hit. The music video for this song has 2.6 million views on YouTube. In this song, they are criticizing the rigid educational system. A year later, during demonstrations against the changes to criminal code, this song became almost like an anthem among the students. Voice of Bacheprod used their music to draw attention to important social and environmental issues. One of their earliest songs, The Enemy of Earth Is You, is about pollution and climate change. It was released in 2016 when Indonesia was hit by a record number of natural disasters. For example, in Garut, where the band is from, flash floods took the life of at least 23 people, and their song What's the Holy Noble Today is an anti-war anthem. In their London show, Marsya shouted, "We cannot be silent, the genocide is still happening," before playing this song.
The genocide is still happening. We can't be silent. We can't be silent.
I also need to point out that unlike other musicians in the rock and metal industry who would live by the motto sex, drugs and rock and roll, Voice of Bacheprod members are not de-announcing their fate or running away to some maybe Western country to have some more freedom.
Freedom.
But this doesn't mean that the band didn't go through some difficulties. For example, religious leaders have asked the manager to dissolve the band. There was even a situation where in one of the shows people were throwing rocks at the girls, and they have even received death threats. Other times people were trying to obstruct the venues or try to pull out the power cord. 2 months ago I was on a live stream with the girls, and then I was asking if any of these things have made them reconsider what they are doing, and then the members answered that the biggest issue has always been the financials.
Ini ada pertanyaan dari Mas Bule di London. Ini orang bule, tapi cinta sekali dengan Indonesia. Pertanyaannya adalah, apakah ada momen di mana VoB kalian tuh berpikiran berhenti main musik? Udah deh, capek deh gua. Uangnya udah banyak, nggak butuh lagi main musik. Misalkan, ada nggak kepikiran gitu?
Justru kita pernah berhenti capek karena nggak dapat uang. Merasa tidak ada hasilnya.
Jadi bukan karena udah banyak uangnya, Pak. Tapi
Uangnya nggak kekumpul.
capek karena uangnya nggak ada.
Nggak kekumpul.
Ini serius?
Ini
Ya, pernah.
FYI, ini pernah ada di TikTok itu.
Okay.
Even last year, when Voice of Butterport were already touring in the United States, in an interview, Sitti admitted that at that time she didn't even have her own drum set.
Do you now have a drum set at home?
No.
Not yet?
Not yet. Just got cymbal. I got cymbal from Face, and I just have snare and double pedal.
And this comes as a no surprise because, for example, the minimum wage in West Java every month is just 2 million Indonesian rupiah, which is roughly 96 British pounds or 123 American dollars. But even then, salaries like these are mostly paid to people like civil servants. A lot of people in Indonesia are self-employed and they earn even less than that. The Voice of Butterport girls have done all sorts of side hustles before they became famous. During the pandemic, when there were no gigs, Widi was selling homemade bakso and seblak. She often brought this food to the band's rehearsals, which earned the praises from Marsya and Sitti. Also, Marsya has spent quite a lot of time helping her mom to run a food stall. But from the trio, Sitti has the most entrepreneurship experience. Already back in the school days, VoB drummer used to sell cilok. Who doesn't know? It's a cheap but very popular street food snack in Indonesia. It's basically a ball-shaped dumpling made of tapioca. At the lockdown, Sitti was working at her brother's shoe store and earning 450,000 rupiah a month. That's like 22 British pounds or 28 American dollars. If you're living like in a Western country, that's probably less than what you have paid for your pair of shoes. The job at the shoe store, Sitti combined with work at Ayam Geprek restaurant. There she was plucking and cleaning chickens. This only shows how versatile the girls are and that they are not afraid of any challenges that life throws at them. For a lot of musicians, it's an honor to get acknowledged by the artists that they were inspired. Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine has admitted that he is a big fan of VoB. The girls were all over the moon when they had a video call with him.
We have Tom online already, I
Hello.
think. Yeah.
Here
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Who knows, maybe in the future the musicians will do a collab. That would be so amazing. When Guns N' Roses had a show in Jakarta, Slash invited the girls in the backstage, but this meeting never happened because he got stuck in traffic jam. And then Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers has mentioned Voice of Butterport in his tweets like at least 3 times. All this gives me a little bit of baby metal vibe. You have these girls on the stage of all the major metal shows, and they're also backed by the industry's heavyweights like Rob Zombie or Judas Priest, but this is where their similarities end, because VoB girls, they are playing the music instruments by themselves, they are writing their own lyrics, and they are not a product of a talent agency. Nevertheless, the success of both of the bands shows that the metal music fans are looking for something different, something fresh. And that's what VoB is. 7 years ago, in an interview, the girls dreamed about going to America and United Kingdom, and this is what has actually happened. In 2022, VoB had their show in Wacken Open Air Festival in Germany. Last year they were touring in United States, and 2 months ago they were the first ever Indonesian music band playing on the legendary Glastonbury festival in the UK. These girls have become the ambassadors of their country, and now overseas fans like Simon is learning more about Indonesia. Their success teaches us to dream big and stay dedicated to our dreams. Everything is possible. So what about me? 10,000 subscribers? I think that's my next goal, and then 100,000. Will you help me to make this happen? Please like, subscribe and leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next video.